thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Tex Messages, or if you're on TV, you're watching Tex Messages The Resurrection. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're absolutely elated that you've decided to join us this evening. We got a pretty important topic to discuss tonight, ladies and gentlemen. One of the things we wanted to talk about, actually this is probably the primary thing we'll talk about, is animals versus plant protein. Now protein is very important because it's in 20% of your body by weight. And protein, there are certain amino acids that are synthetically produced by your own body, but there are also parts that are required, also known as essential amino acids. And those are the ones that you need to get from food sources. Now you probably heard statistics, the human body is whatever percent, 70, 80, 90% water, and then it's got a bunch of protein and fat and bone tissue and all this other stuff. So protein is one of the vital building blocks towards muscle cells. And muscle cells are some of the bigger individual cells in your body. So that's why if you do a lot of strength training or any kind of exercise or manual labor, blue collar jobs, you're going to need a lot of protein to supplement that. And there's still a little skepticism as to how much protein somebody should have. Generally, the rule of thumb is 1 gram per body weight, so per day. So say you weigh 200 pounds, if you're doing a decent amount of weightlifting, blue collar work, then 200 grams of protein per day. And the other thing to follow, that it's something along the lines of you can only really uptake, or you can only actually use about 30 grams for every 2 to 3 hours. So I've heard those statistics are kind of floating out there too. But there is a bit of controversy around these numbers, ladies and gentlemen. So they're not written in stone. If you eat 50 grams of protein in one sitting, because say if you only eat 3 times a day and you need to get 200 grams of protein, then it's kind of like, well, what do you do? Just eat 60 grams per sitting, but then if you can only have 30 grams per sitting, then what's going to happen there? So the fact of the matter is, a lot of this that I'm telling you, 30 grams per sitting and 1 gram per body weight, per pound per body weight per day. This is mostly just stuff that I've read. Now, through personal experience, as far as what I've found that's worked best, mostly just generally I haven't really experimented to figure out what's best. So, there's really no way to say for sure. But what I've noticed is just to maintain a consistent level. So if there's 5 meals a day, then 40 grams per meal, or whatever the case may be. And that's why it's important to keep track of macronutrients, which is protein, carbohydrates, and fats, so that you know exactly so that you can keep them in good ratio for every meal. For example, if you're eating one meal where it's 90% carbohydrates, 10% fat, then you're eating another meal that's 70% protein and 10% fat, 20% carbohydrate, then another meal that's 80% carbohydrates, 20% protein. You may not be getting the right amount of protein, and you may be getting a deluge of carbohydrates, which will cause your blood sugar to spike up through the roof, and your pancreas has to work in overdrive to create all the insulin to, regulate that blood sugar. So, the fact of the matter is, it's just important to have balanced meals. Based on what I've noticed over the years, balanced meals are what seems to contribute to good performance as far as picking up and setting down weights. Time of the year affects it too. Wintertime, when there's when there's more carbon dioxide in the air and less oxygen, then it's obviously more difficult too, especially for endurance sets. But the fact of the matter is, eating balanced meals as far as macronutrients, is very important. And then diverse meals too, to get the right amount of micronutrients. So, and diversity is definitely a good thing when it comes to food consumption, unless you're allergic to a bunch of stuff or intolerant or whatever the case may be. And some things just really aren't readily available. So what proteins are is they're broken down into amino acids. And animals have a good balance of amino acids. Plants are missing some. If you eat any kind of animal meats, you see meat, fish, poultry, eggs, or even dairy, they have all of the essential amino acids that are not available in your body. That's why they're called complete amino acids. Which is why a lot of times, you'll hear about a vegan diet, plant-based diet. Unfortunately for plants, they don't, according to our current understanding and knowledge, they don't really have the complete proteins in all the essential amino acids, because some of the proteins like bean, lentils, nuts, and even peas and things of that nature, they'll lack at least one or more of the essential amino acid. Now, yeah, you can eat a variety of plant protein and then get all the amino acids. So even apple cider vinegar has some degree of amino acids. So I mean, to be a plant-based or vegan diet is not entirely out of the realm of possibility as far as being a reasonably strong person that can build protein or that can build muscle with ample protein input. Because it's just a matter of diversifying the source that you're eating from. And I mean, even if you're eating meat too, it's still important to get at least some type of variety. You know, fowl meat, eggs, fish, meat, or hamburger, beef, cow, lamb, goat, that kind of stuff. So red meat, for example. Now, you may have heard that red meat might contribute to heart disease and everything like that. What a lot of those studies found is that they're talking about processed red meat. You know, maybe the pink slime or whatever. But mostly the processed meat with the high sodium, high preservatives, high, who knows what else. But if you buy sausages or deli meat, it is one that'll have a lot of these sodium nitrate, sodium benzoate, sodium something or another. It'll be a salt compound, which will be either sodium something or potassium something. That's a salt. It's bonded with some other, you know, on the chemical table, it's a potassium, magnesium, sodium bonded with something else. So, but generally the preservatives are sodium something because they're cheap and they can preserve food at a reasonable cost. And companies are generally interested in making profits, not so much providing quality and good health, which is what you're responsible for. And to an extent, I'm absolutely responsible for too. If I feed you bad information, then, I mean, to some degree, you could say I am culpable. But it is important to, I mean, hell, even, it's two-way street. See, if I feed bad information, somebody replies and gives me some feedback to say, hey, this bad information is incorrect, here's this, that, and the other thing that refutes it to a very high degree, then yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, if it's a couple of news sources that say something is off, it's very difficult to trust any type of news source too, or even some studies. A lot of studies can be convoluted and not entirely on the up and up as well. So there's also that to consider, ladies and gentlemen. So I mean, we try not to hang our ski mask too much on just research articles and news articles and everything like that and believe that is holy grail of fact. I mean, if I'm going to tell you something, I actually fervently, maybe not fervently, but certainly believe that there is some validity to it. I mean, it's just based on my own personal experience because, I mean, for pretty much my entire life, I've had to focus very carefully on food consumption and the patterns and the habits that it creates based on either poor choices or good choices. So if I see something that potentially doesn't jive with what I've experimented firsthand, then I'll definitely wave at least the orange flag or the yellow flag. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, to sum it up, animal versus plant protein, I mean, they're both excellent sources. You just get clean sources that aren't bonded to a bunch of weird chemical pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, and all that, synthetic fertilizers. Animals have, so protein is 20% of your body. It needs daily restoration. It's broken down in amino acids. Animal sources have complete amino acids. Plant proteins are missing at least one or more. But if you get a diverse set of, say for example, you're eating nuts, you could eat pecans, walnuts. Then you can eat all the different kinds of beans out there too. Navy beans, black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans. And then of course lentils. And then you got other sources like peas, and even broccoli has some protein in it. So as long as you're getting a good mixture of plants, you should be able to cover the essential amino acids. And then of course, animal protein also has vitamin B12, D, omega-3 fats, iron, and zinc. And of course, plants will have some of that too, but it's every plant is a little different, especially based on the soil it's grown in. And with the animal too, based on how the animal is raised. If the animal is raised on open pastures and underneath the bright, shiny sky and is not encased inside some building, it's going to be way healthier than some other animal that's inside a cage that's has his ass pushed up against his buddy's face all day. Plus, usually wild game is probably the most healthiest. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to put a conclusion to part 1 of tonight's show. We're glad that you joined us once again. We will be back momentarily. Thank you very much.